Hey everyone, David Morrison here from Vol Society with your official Vol Society 2023-2024 University of Tennessee Volunteers men's basketball preview. Now you're probably thinking, David, we're in the middle of football season. Tennessee football team having another solid season for the most part. Why are we talking hoops all of a sudden? Well, believe it or not, we're just like a couple of weeks away from the start of another Tennessee basketball season and college basketball in general. So what I wanted to do is go ahead and get this Tennessee basketball preview out there for you all. Now, what I'm going to do for this Tennessee basketball preview for the men and the women is a little different than what I've done in the past. Instead of just rambling on for 30, 40 minutes and just throwing out a lot of stats and players and who to watch for, what I'm going to do is a top five list of different categories. So I have a top five list of headlines, the top five headlines coming into the year, the top five non-conference games that Tennessee will be playing, and the top five toughest SEC opponents that we're going to face this year. Like I said, I'm going to do it for the men and the women, but we're doing the men's video obviously right now. So let's go ahead and talk about the top five headlines for the Tennessee men's basketball team coming into this season. Starting at number five, the return of Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan James. That's right, Sandy and Triple J returning back to the team for the second year in a row. Both players went to the NBA Combine tryouts and see where they would end up being on the NBA draft boards. Obviously, they didn't have a high report, so thanks to their extra year of eligibility due to the COVID season. Both Sandy and Triple J are coming back for their fifth season or sixth season, however you want to look at it. And I'm excited to have these veteran players to return back to the Tennessee team. I mean, Santiago Vescovi, a fan favorite, played every game last year, averaged 32 minutes a game, shot 39% from the field, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 37% from beyond the arc. Uh, just a major contributor returning back to this Tennessee basketball team. And Josiah Jordan James, obviously last year was injured for most of the season. Only played 24 games, started 14, but the time he did play, shot 31% from three-point land, 37% field goal percentage, 10 points, 4 rebounds. But now uh, Triple J's healthy. He's 100% ready to go, and I can't wait to see what he does in his final year at the University of Tennessee. Number four, who will step up? We already mentioned Sandy. We already mentioned Josiah Jordan James. We're going to mention another player, number three on this list, in just a minute. But, some of the emerging players, Tennessee did lose some guys. Julian Phillips now off to the NBA. Olivier Commois off to the University of Michigan. So some of these players that were kind of key reserves, how are they going to step up into this next season, or who to kind of watch out for? Uh, First guy I'm going to mention is Jamai Mashak. Last year, very underrated year, shot 42% from the field, played an average about 18 minutes per game, started 13 games mainly due to James's injury, averaged a steal and a half a game. So I think Mashak is going to really step up big for us as far as a key reserve goes, or possibly in the starting five. We shall see there. Jonas Sadu and Toby Aqua, I'm going to kind of put them together. And once we get to number two on this list, I'll kind of dive a little bit more deep. But I think both will have to contribute, especially Jonas Adu in the paint, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Freddie Dillon, the fifth, a guy that was on the team last year, saw very limited minutes last year, but I think you'll see a significant improvement as far as minutes, plays, and experience. Excited about this young guard. Obviously, the transfer portal, a big part in college basketball. The University of Tennessee did pick up a couple players. Well, actually several, like Grant Lewis from UT Martin. But a couple guys I'm going to focus on. Jordan Gainey, a shooting guard for this Tennessee team, came from USC Upstate. I think he'll see some significant minutes definitely early on in the year, and we'll see where Rick Barnes has him once we go into SEC play. And then Dalton Connect. He came from Northern Colorado. He was a second team All Big Sky player, and when the Tennessee Vols went over to Italy to play some summer ball against some teams in Italy. He was leading the team in scoring, averaging 16 points per game, a good 3-point shooter. And of course, Tennessee loves their 3-point shooters. So hopefully Dalton Connect will connect on those 3-pointers. Number 3, Zakai Ziegler returning back from injury. I'm excited to see Z coming back. Had the ACL injury right at the start of March, the worst time you can have an injury. And in my opinion, that's where Tennessee really lost its sail going into March Madness, even though they did make a Sweet 16 appearance, but not having that reliable point guard really hurt us for the most part. But, I mean, Zakai Ziegler, what a season he had. Second year in a row, he was named to the All SEC defensive team. He was also named all second SEC team this year or this past season. 31% 3-point shooter, 10 points, 5 assists per game. Shot 83% from the charity stripe, which, by the way, that needs to be a big improvement also. I should have put that in my top 5, but I didn't. But definitely something to keep an eye out on. But definitely excited to see Zakai Ziegler come back. And from as of recording time, it seems like he's coming back very soon. So we'll see when Zakai Ziegler comes back, and I'm excited to have our point guard back. Number 2, post-play improvement. All right, so I already mentioned Julian Phillips is gone. Olivier Kamwa's gone. Obviously, Uros Plavic no longer with the team. He decided to head back to Serbia. Actually, his eligibility ended, but he went back to his home country of Serbia, playing professional ball over there in Serbia in the Serbian League, and we wish him nothing but the best over there. So, I mentioned Jonas Adu, Toby Aqua. Jonas Adu, started 9 games last year for us, played 35 games, shot 50% from the field, 4 rebounds. I think he needs to definitely take on that Euros role. I mean, Tennessee doesn't have a legit like 6'10", 6'11", 7-foot guy in the middle. They're going to play small underneath the paint, but I think if you can get Jonas Adu or Toby Aqua to really be a force in the paint, even though maybe undersized, I think Tennessee can hold their own in the post play. But definitely something to keep an eye out on. And I think, to me, that's kind of the big concern for the Tennessee basketball team. And then number 1, Rick Barnes' March Madness success. It seems like every year when Tennessee's eliminated from March Madness, it's always the big question is, well, Rick Barnes can't win the big one. Well, Rick Barnes is now going into his 9th season at the University of Tennessee with a 175-92 record. He's made 5 straight NCAA tournament appearances, minus the canceled NCAA tournament in 2020. 2 Sweet 16 appearances. So he does have some success, but it seems like, there could be more, or there should be more. So can Rick Barnes finally get this veteran team, get some players to step up, and have a deep run going into March Madness? And if not, I think that's where you start seeing some more questions of maybe Rick Barnes can't get it done in March Madness, and kind of the writing's on the wall. But, still Rick Barnes I'm not trying to put Rick Barnes on a hot seat or anything. I think he's a great coach, and he's, locked under a multi-year contract with the University of Tennessee, but it's definitely the Achilles heel of him. All right, so now we move out of the headlines and we jump into the top 5 non-conference games that the University of Tennessee will meet. We begin at number 5, and that's the NC State Wolfpack. This game will take place in San Antonio, Texas on December the 16th, part of the Basketball Hall of Fame Classic, which feels like there's about 8 or 9 of them now in college basketball, but this one's in San Antonio. NC State went 23-11 last year, lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Creighton. This team right here has got kind of doing a bit of a rebuild. Seems like NC State is always like a 500 ACC team. It's either they're in the NCAA tournament like as a low seed or kind of a high NIT seed. But, players to watch out for, DJ Burns for NC State, former Winthrop player, now at NC State. Matter of fact, it's his 2nd year in Raleigh. Somebody to keep an eye out on. MJ Rice, a transfer from Kansas. Comes over to NC State, and then they're very excited about this young freshman, a 4-star forward named Dennis Parker Jr. So we'll see how Tennessee does against NC State. I think we'll match up very fine against the Wolfpack. like I said, be a nice little resume builder once we get into March Madness. Number 4, a game I'm very excited about playing, the Illinois Fighting Illini, coming up on December the 9th in Knoxville. Illinois, led by Brad Underwood in his, I believe, his 7th year, 20-13 on the year, lost to Arkansas in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Kind of seeing a trend with some of these teams in this list here as we move on. But Illinois got a potential All-American combo guard forward, 6'6", Terrence Shannon Jr. I'm excited to see Terrence Shannon Jr. This year, and actually I will be at this game on December the 9th in Knoxville on a Saturday. Another player to watch out for, Coleman Hawkins, a very veteran-led group, this Illinois team. Both Shannon and Hawkins done the same thing as Sandy and James did, test out the NBA draft markets, but both came back to the University of Illinois. But definitely a program on the rise in the Big Ten, having kind of a down year last year. But Illinois, number 4. Number 3, a very early matchup, the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, Wisconsin didn't have a great season. They went 20-15 for Greg Gard. They made the NIT tournament, but went fairly far in the NIT to the semifinals. Couple guys to watch out for: Chucky Hepburn, excuse me, and then the 7-foot center Stephen Kroll. You know, I think Tennessee can match up well with Wisconsin, but the reason I put it at number 3 is just so early on in the year, because you have Tennessee Tech. I believe you play them on the 7th or 8th. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head. But then, 2 days later, 3 days later, you turn around, you got to go to Wisconsin and play the Badgers. But definitely a interesting matchup early on in the year, and definitely see where Tennessee lines up. Number 2, the North Carolina Tar Heels. This game will take place November 29th at Chapel Hill, part of the inaugural SEC versus ACC Challenge. Obviously, both conferences used to have their own challenges, the ACC Big Ten Challenge and the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Well, now you have the SEC and the ACC going to do some matchups. These games, I believe, will take place like on that Tuesday and Wednesday. I believe this is a Tuesday game. Excited to play North Carolina, a blue blood, a major program in college basketball, or a dynasty program, if you will. Of course, North Carolina had a historic bad season last year. Kind of rewinded back to the 2022 Final Four. North Carolina defeated Duke. That was Mike Krzyzewski's last game. Went on to the championship game, lost to Kansas. Had everybody coming back. Preseason number 1 jumping into this past season, and they just fell flat. They had a very bad season, became the first team in the AP poll history to be a preseason number 1 team and not make the NCAA tournament. Guys like Caleb Love ended up leaving the program, a couple other North Carolina players. So Ahmad Baycock and R.J. Davis are both back for North Carolina. This is going to be a talented team, and I think last year was a fluke for this North Carolina team. I think they can bounce back. Picked up Cormac Ryan, a transfer from Notre Dame. So we'll see how Tennessee matches up against North Carolina and Chapel Hill. Definitely a game I'm excited to see. And then the number 1 non-conference game Tennessee's going to face is a whole bunch of teams. It's the Maui Invitational Tournament. Now, I kind of cheated a little bit on this top 5 list, but look at the teams Tennessee's playing in this Maui Invitational or have a chance to play. Gonzaga, a constant top 10 team. Kansas, preseason number 1 team. You guys remember Hunter Dickerson in the NCAA tournament when Tennessee played Michigan? He's now on this Jayhawks team, and definitely the favorites to win the whole thing this year. Marquette, led by Shaka Smart, had a great season last year. Program on the rise in the Big East. Purdue Boilermakers, Zach Edey, the most dominant college basketball player last year, although Purdue had a historic loss in the NCAA tournament. Purdue was the number 1 seed, lost to Fairleigh Dickinson, the number 16 seed. But this Purdue team is coming back, although for me personally, I'm never picking Purdue ever again in the NCAA tournament to go far. It don't matter who they've got. Matt Prater, we talked about the concerns about Rick Barnes. I think Matt Prater is even worse, but moving on from that. Syracuse, first time in 40 years, they will not be with their head coach, Jim Boeheim, as he finally has left that program or retired. So they'll be on a rebuild, and that's who Tennessee will face in the first round of the Maui Invitational Tournament. UCLA, always a constant team in the Pac-12, of course, the last year of the Pac-12. And then the host school, Chaminade Division II school in Maui, which I don't think Tennessee will face, but usually they kind of get bounced pretty early unless they're playing Rouse Sampson in Virginia. Anyways, speaking of Maui, Tennessee will be playing Michigan State in an exhibition game early on in November, and that game will be at Michigan State, and all the proceeds of that game will go to the wildfires that hit Hawaii this year. So a good cause for both Tennessee and Michigan State there. All right, so now we move out of the non-conference games, and we're going to go to the top five, in my opinion, and Vol Society opinion, the top five toughest opponents the University of Tennessee men's basketball team will meet in SEC conference play. And I'm just going to say the SEC is going to have maybe 9 or 10 teams that could make the NCAA tournament. Now, could they get all 10 in there? Probably not, but I still think it's a very deep league, and it's going to be a lot of fun basketball every night, especially when we get into SEC play. But we start off at number 5 of the toughest opponents, the Missouri Tigers. So Missouri, last time Tennessee faced Missouri, they ended up winning on a buzzer beater at Thompson-Boling Arena last year. So Tennessee will be looking for revenge in that game, and this will be a late game in the schedule, February the 20th in Columbia, Missouri, the only time the Vols and Mizzou will meet in the regular season, unless they happen to meet in the SEC tournament in Nashville. But Dennis Gates, in his first year, came from Cleveland State over to Missouri, led the Mizzou Tigers to the big dance. So a very good showing from Mizzou. They did lose a couple players to the NBA, including Kobe Brown. But they ended up picking up a couple guys in the transfer portal: Caleb Grill from Iowa State, Tamar Bates from Indiana. They got a very tall team, including 7'5" Connor Vanover. I mean, that's crazy to think that. I mean, I know Zach Edey's probably over that 7-foot mark too, and you do have some guys in the SEC 7 foot, but 7'5", wow, that's really tall for a basketball player. You also got guys like Noah Carter, Nick Homer running the point. A couple 4-star freshmen that Missouri ended up picking up in Trent Pierce and Jordan Butler. This is going to be a pretty tough matchup. Missouri is a team on the rise. They were the surprise team last year, and I expect to see them to contend again. Number 4, the Arkansas Razorbacks. The Vols and the Hogs will meet on Valentine's Day at Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville. Now, Tennessee has historically not had success at Bud Walton Arena since they opened that place up 30 years ago or so. This is the only time Tennessee Arkansas plays. Arkansas, a legit NCAA tournament team year in and year out. Made it to the Sweet 16 last year, if I remember correctly. I think they ended up losing to the eventual champion UConn Huskies. But they really hit the transfer portal hard, big time transfers, including former Memphis player Chandler Lawson, former Louisville Cardinal L. Ellis, Houston transfer Tremont Mark, who was a big part of that Houston Cougar team last year. And then they returned Devo Davis, Trey Brazell, Mekhi Mitchell. This is going to be a physical matchup, and hopefully Tennessee will be ready to play this physical team and be ready to, like I said, just go toe-to-toe with them. The only time Tennessee and Arkansas will meet this year, and expect a fun one on Valentine's Day. Be kind of a good Valentine's Day, I guess. Number 3, the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a home-and-home series for the Vols and the Aggies. First game will meet on February the 10th in College Station, and then the rematch in Knoxville on February 24th, so just a 2-week turnaround. Texas A&M last year made the NCAA tournament. First-round loss to Penn State. Buzz Williams has got this team really turned around, playing really good ball. They're led by preseason SEC Player of the Year, Wade Taylor IV. So expect a a lot of shots from him, a lot of playmaking ability. You also got like guys like Chase Carter, Tyrese Radford. This is this is going to be another physical team Tennessee's going to have to take seriously, especially going on the road at College Station. I'm sure there'll be a hostile crowd there. Really, at Missouri, also in Arkansas, and even Texas A&M. But looking forward to playing the Aggies, and I think they're going to be right there in, especially with the hype with Wade Taylor. Number 2, the Alabama Crimson Tide. First game will be in Knoxville on January the 20th, and then the rematch late in the season, March the 2nd in Tuscaloosa. Last year Tennessee won at home, and then I think we had the rematch when Alabama won. This Alabama team, it kind of went through all sorts of emotions last year, especially with the whole Brandon Miller situation. He's now gone on to the Charlotte Hornets. Some guys have transferred from Nate Oates' team, but Nate Oates is still a hot coach. Loves running that up-tempo offense. Tennessee has had problems with, but also has success with their defense. But they got a pretty decent team for the most part. Got Aaron Estrada, running the point guard. Nick Pringle, Mark Sears, Jarian Stevenson. This is still going to be an Alabama team that's going to live by the three. Going to shoot some high percentage shots, quick shots. So can Tennessee's defense really step up and hold their own? Like I said, this is going to be some physical matchups, and that January 20th matchup in Knoxville is going to be a lot of fun. And number 1, the Kentucky Wildcats. Tennessee, Kentucky, the best rivalry in SEC basketball. First game will take place in Lexington on February the 3rd, and then the rematch, the final day of SEC basketball, on March the 9th in Knoxville. Circle that date on your calendar. March the 9th, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Knoxville. That could be for the SEC regular season championship right there. Kentucky, John Calipari probably has his best team in probably about 3 or 4 years. Kind of going back to what's made him successful over the years, relying on talented freshmen with some few veterans sprinkled in. But you got some great freshmen in Rob Dillingham, Justin Edwards, DJ Wagner, 7'1" freshman Aaron Bradshaw, along with some veterans like Trey Mitchell, Antonio Reeves, and Reed Shepard. A very talented team, a team that's going to score a lot of points. Tennessee's going to have to be ready for Kentucky. Kentucky's actually, for a few years there, Tennessee was picking up some wins against Kentucky at home. Well, now Kentucky is kind of, had the upper hand lately in winning at now called the Food City Center, but we're still going to call it the Thompson Bowling Arena here on Ball Society because we don't like change too much, and plus corporate shoving down our throat. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, I'm excited about Tennessee playing Kentucky. Like I said, I think Tennessee really needs to, worst case scenario, split these games to be in contention for that SEC regular season championship and a high seeding in the SEC tournament in Nashville. But Tennessee, Kentucky, going to be definitely the toughest opponent. Or Tennessee's toughest opponent will be Kentucky coming up. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that Tennessee basketball preview. Like I said, I didn't want to absorb a whole lot of information and kind of bore you to death, and kept it flowing. So, like I said, we're going to do the same format for the Lady Vols. And yeah, college basketball is back. And it's, believe it or not, getting here very quickly, and excited to see how Rick Barnes and the Tennessee Volunteers does this season. So for your Tennessee men's basketball report, this is David Morrison. Enjoy the hoops.